Hello and a very warm welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, I recently had the pleasure of spending 3 weeks in Albania, and I started off in the capital Tirana. My impressions of Tirana are generally good, especially with the excellent road from the airport to the city centre and the nightlife with a lots of nice bars and cafes and plenty of places to sit outside. And you can walk the streets of Tirana, especially the centre, with the utmost safety, even in the early hours of the morning. And Tirana is indeed a very walkable city, and bus fares are very cheap at 40 lek, around 35 cents. And an espresso coffee will set you back less than €1. However, I was shocked by real estate prices here. Even in the suburbs of Tirana, you will struggle to find any sort of decent property for less than €1,000 per square meter. So, in this video, I'm going to give you 10 reasons why I think you should not buy real estate in Tirana, especially for investment purposes. And number one, of course, is the price. Prices are very expensive. And in actual fact, even in the suburbs of Tirana, as stated, prices on average cost more than €1,000 per square meter. And anywhere central in the city, prices will start from €2,500 per square meter and easily go up to €5,000 per square meter. Now, a new apartment I saw near the American Embassy, which was a three-bedroom apartment, was going for €306,000. Now, the apartment was stated as having 107 square meters of living space, but in reality, just like countries like Bulgaria, for example, this includes common parts. So in reality, it was 95 square meters. So we are talking here well over €3,000 per square meter. There was also a new construction to be finished next year near the House of Leaves, which is a very interesting museum. Now, this apartment was on the ninth floor with views of Skanderberg Square, which is the main square in Tirana. Now, for 69 square meters, the price was €310,000, so not far off €5,000 per square meter. Very expensive. I also saw another apartment near Griffin Restaurant, which is very central. And again, here it was expensive. A two-bedroom apartment, 75 square meters, was €260,000, but it was pretty new. Now, I also went to a not so nice area called Ali Demi, and it's a neighborhood which is a little bit rough around the edges. And here, new apartments roughly go for €1,500 per square meter. But I thought for a bad neighborhood and a new apartment, I thought this was expensive, especially because the apartment I saw had no fixtures and fittings. So, for example, there was no bathroom, there was no kitchen, and you also had to put tiles on as well. So I thought for not such a great neighborhood, this was expensive. So, coming to reason number two, I want to talk about terrible yields. The yields in Tirana are very low. By my calculation, you'll be very lucky to get a net yield of 2%. So, yields here are actually worse even than London. And if you decide to come, I think, and live here or spend some time in Tirana, I think you're better off actually renting than buying. Now, number three, if you do buy, I think you're buying at the top of the market. And I think potentially we are looking at the moment at the peak because prices have actually skyrocketed over the last 2 to 3 years. Now, although data is difficult to come by, I have read a number of articles since my visit to Tirana, and according to sources such as Euronews, they have stated that according to the Bank of Albania, over the last 6 months alone, the average price of a property in Tirana has increased by 23%, which is absolutely staggering. Now, number four, I want to talk about local affordability, which such high prices you would expect fairly decent salaries, but it's not the case. I've spoke to many people in Tirana, and most of whom confirmed that the average salary in Tirana is between about 500 to €600 a month. So it's actually impossible to afford any sort of property. So I think that a correction is definitely due. Now, number five, I want to talk about a little bit of overbuilding. Now, there's no doubt there is a construction boom going on in Tirana. If you walk actually to the top of the pyramid in Tirana, walk up the steps to the pyramid, you'll get an excellent view of the construction going on in the city. And my point being that there's not only a lot of building, but there's a lot of tall buildings. And this could, I think, depress prices in the future. There's a lot of building going on. Number six, let's talk about empty apartments. Now, leading on from point five, there are already over 50,000 empty apartments in Tirana, which shows that there's a lot of families that have emigrated and left apartments empty. And there's a lot of money, according to a lot of people I spoke, there's a lot of money, dirty money going into apartments in Tirana. So what we're seeing is a kind of fictitious demand for property. You're not really seeing the reality here. Number seven, I want to talk about the hike of real estate taxes. Now, the government is due to increase taxes on real estate from 2026. So, property tax will actually be based on the market value rather than the cadastral value, which is much lower. So, this may well encourage more owners of apartments, especially empty ones, to put them on the market and hence, I think, depress prices. Number eight, now let's talk about high unemployment. Now, I have to be fair, Albania has done well when it comes to GDP growth, and more recently, it's been reducing its debt, but mainly due to the lek being quite strong. But unemployment remains high at over 30%, and youth unemployment is over 20%. That's not good for the future. And number nine, I want to talk about many Albanians wanting to leave and low birth rates. So I spoke to many Albanian youth people when I was actually in Tirana, and many of them did state they still wanted to leave. It's difficult to have a family, and the birth rates are really declining fast in Tirana, and that obviously is not good for the future real estate market. And finally, number 10, I want to talk about better alternatives. Now, there are better alternatives when it comes to investing in a real estate capital. Now, one such example is Sofia in Bulgaria, where average prices are similar to Tirana, but Bulgaria has already gone through that phase where it's in the European Union, it's got lots of funding, it's got a much lower debt, and wages are much higher in Sofia than they are in Tirana. And Sofia has better infrastructure, is more dynamic, and this is despite prices already having gone up in Sofia, there's still so much better value than Tirana. But let's focus briefly on the positives. The airport, ever increasing flights, there's a lot more tourism, and I think it's could potentially help in the future. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for watching.